In this lesson, we are going to talk about importing meshes, materials, and textures into ArmorPaint and what tools we have at our disposal inside the software. Now, as you can see, this is a pretty complex 3D model and it's coming from Sketchfab. I will show you where to get it shortly. And it's also showing me some materials and texture, but in this case, it has a problem with the texture. You can see down here in the texture panel that this one is showing in a purple color. This means that it doesn't find where that texture is stored. So it's really important to keep 3D models and texture together, or just keep the link to the texture active. Otherwise, it will not show in your ArmorPaint project. Now let's start from the beginning. And let's go into Sketchfab. Now I am downloading a couple of models for this lesson. One of these is this really nice animated falcon. Well, we cannot work with this animated stuff right now, but you can download the model here, and this is from this author, which it's called Zandos. You can download the FBX. Now you can also try with the GLTF, but many times this is automatically generated, so it doesn't work properly when you import it into ArmorPaint. Another thing that you can do if your object doesn't work nicely in ArmorPaint is use a 3D software like 3ds Max or Maya or Blender, which is free, to convert and use a more compatible format for ArmorPaint. Now in this case, this will work because it's FBX. And also I will show you where to get the lion, or what the name is, so you can look for it and download it by yourself. And this is it. It's called Lowe 3D model. So if I click here again, if I scroll down, I can download this 3D model right here, and it's gonna be OBJ. So we are trying with two different formats, but also again I've tried with this GLTF, and in this case it didn't work. So sometimes this is not good for the time being. Now if you see in the documentation, in the manual, in ArmorPaint manual online, we already talked about how to get into this manual also from the interface of ArmorPaint. In the previous video we talked about a little bit about that. And here you have the section called Import Meshes, where you can find some instructions. And you can see here that the most appropriate format is OBJ. Now the other formats like FBX, Blender, STL, which is used for printing, GLTF and GLB, these are, yes, they are supported, but not 100% reliable yet. So I guess they are working on this to make it more and more reliable system. Okay, now let's get another thing I want to show you here from the ArmorPaint manual. If you go to this section here, Import Meshes, and you go right here below, you can see this link where you can download sample assets for testing on GitHub. So if I click here, I will access the ArmorPaint page and ArmorPaint samples. So if I go here, I can download the latest release. So just by clicking here on this link source code, I will download this in my download folder. Now this is the folder right here, but I already extracted this into my ArmorPaint folder where I am keeping all these files for this video course, and here I have these samples right here. So you can see that in the samples folder you will find a lot of different formats like let's see this one here. This is a OBJ, and then you will find, let's see this one here. This is a FBX, and this is Blender, and this is ARM. You will find a lot of different formats. This one, it's again OBJ, sorry, I think I picked the same one. GLB, this is GLB. You can see it's kind of late on the floor, so sometimes you have to fix this importing stuff, and we also have other things here that we probably can use later on. And also we have a folder with some textures for a wooden material. So we're gonna try now everything that we have downloaded into ArmorPaint. So let's get back into ArmorPaint. Now, only one thing, subscribe to the channel, and if you're looking for something that you don't really know, you can type, for example, Sketchfab, and you can find a video guide about Sketchfab or other video guides, or for example, if you want to know more about unwrapping, which is how we can get the material correctly on an object, you can search for unwrap. We have many different videos. Some of these are in Italian, some of these are in English. But if you want to see English stuff, go to the playlist and check English video courses right here that talk also about 3D modeling, creating textures, materials, and unwrapping. And also, if you want to check the English video guides, you will find it at the bottom of this page called playlist. All right, let's get into ArmorPaint. Now, I want to create a new project. So to start new, and of course, this is my cube. Now I can do the importing in many ways. I can, for example, get into my Windows Explorer and I can, let's say I want to get into the samples here, and let's bring in one of these. So let's bring in, for example, the GLB, which is this one here. So I can just click and drag, and it's gonna ask me if I want to import it. Of course, yes. Now here it looks fine, so it doesn't look with the wrong orientation. It looks perfectly placed, and so it's okay. But let me show you, for example, with the lion, what happens if I import the lion. Sorry, I have created actually another folder here called Sketchfab, and this is my lion in OBJ, I think. Yes, so if I click this and import this one, look what happens. So it's coming not in the correct orientation. Now to fix this, you must go here down to the meshes panel, and this is where you can basically continue to import other stuff. You can replace the existing object. You can also append. This means that you can add other objects, but you cannot really create a complex scene like you do in 3ds Studio Max or Cinema 4D, or you can do that in Blender, but you cannot do this right here. Why in ArmorPaint we concentrate on one single subject. Now that subject could have more than one object applied, but in this case this is just one object. And also we can get here to the tools, and this is where we can, for example, fix the normal problems. If we have normal issues, we can fix it right here, or we can try to fix it with the calculating the normals or flipping the normals. We can also bring this to the origin so it gets into the middle of our scene, and we can then rotate the object or the mesh. Now in this case we want to rotate it around the x-axis, and that's it. Now we fix this problem. Okay, now I want to show you another way you can open up things in and sorry, before we do that, if we go to the 2D view and we activate the UV map, this is the actual UV map, so we can see that this model here has a UV map, so it has been unwrapped, and we can work definitely better on that. Okay, another way we already saw how we can add folders down here in our browser. So here we can just, for example, let's get back to the samples folder from here. So what I'm seeing here is the same stuff that I'm seeing here, but I think it's better right here because it's showing me already the different formats. So for example, let's try to bring in directly a Blender file. Let's say import, and it works. So sometimes it works with any format you bring in. The important thing is that you do it yourself. Sometimes it doesn't work with automated files or auto-generated files. Now we have also a material here, so to I can do two things with the material. I can click it and drag it in the material panel. I can drag it inside the screen here and it's still gonna bring it in the materials. And I can drag it onto the object and nothing happens. But if I drag and drop from the materials panel, it's gonna be applied to our object. Now another thing I can do is go here to the texture, and I can see I don't see any texture because this is a procedural materials. It doesn't need textures. But we can also try with this folder right here. If I double click, I will find some texture about wood. So if I click this, I can bring this texture in my project or in my texture panel. Now this doesn't create a material. Does it mean that I have to create the material myself? Well, not always. You can also try to import the entire folder. So if I double click on this initial folder here, it's gonna go back one step, and from here I will select the entire folder and I will bring it right here into the materials, or I can bring it here into the screen, where I can basically bring it anywhere except on the object, and that's gonna create the material. So one thing is to drag and drop the textures, one thing is to drag and drop the entire folder. That's gonna create automatically a material with PBR textures or physical based texture. So if I click here and I drop it, there's my new material right there. Now again, if you don't know what PBR is, just look for PBR and you're gonna find some videos about PBR here in English videos also in our channel. Alright, so this is already looking pretty cool, pretty nice. So be free to play around with all these samples that you find in the sample folder. Now let's get to the lion. So I can access that file from here, and I think is this one. Oh, this is the GLTF, so let's also try with this. Okay, now you can see here it doesn't happen anything, so I guess it's not working at all. So sometimes things don't work and you have to find another way around. Okay, in this case the OBJ works. All right, now you can see here you can import, and you can import as a group, or you can just import the material or just other stuff inside that object. Well, we want everything, and we want to, as we saw before, we want to rotate this on the X, and we want to put the geometry on the origin. Now the only thing that's missing is the material right here, and you can see I have created a folder, and in that folder I have placed my texture. So you can see here that if you will bring the texture from Sketchfab, it's going to create the texture. But if you create yourself a folder and call it material, then you can just drag and drop the folder itself and then bring the material onto the object, and there you go, the job is done. So let me show you, for example, how the Falcon from Sketchfab also presents. So usually when you download from Sketchfab or other similar websites, you're gonna find a folder called source, and that's gonna be only the 3D model there. So let's bring it in. There you go. And also this one needs some fixing on the rotate X. Sometimes we need to click more than one time to set it straight and well oriented. All right. And so you can see here in the folder that I have downloaded from Sketchfab that we have a textures folder usually, but this is not nice. I mean, I don't want to call my material texture. So what I want to do is to create a new folder and call it, for example, Falcon material. So that's gonna create me a nice material, and I can choose to bring all these unwrapped textures, or maybe only 2 of those, or well, let's copy everything. All right, or you can just rename this folder, of course, but this is just to show you what you could do. And if I click and drag this and drop it there directly in the material, you can see that it's brought, well, I just can see one texture here. So we need to bring all the others by ourselves, and we have to create the more complex material later. Sometimes it recognizes more than just one texture. Sometimes we need to make our own materials, but we will talk about that later, how to manage and create customized materials. But you see here, this looks pretty nice because we have the mesh, and we have like a standard material. We already placed the textures, everything looks fine. We can again give a look to the texture here and the UV map. Well, that's looking pretty nice already, but we will see many more fascinating things later on in the course. So please, if you can support us through the community, we are always creating projects, and if you want to support us with a small donation, you can use this PayPal link here that you find in the community, or through the store. You can check our store, you can buy some merchandising. And well, that's it. Please leave your comments, questions, suggestions. Thanks for watching. See you in the next lesson.